take one.
Well, you know, I'd like to start the conversation with the film school debate, because I think that if I'm 17, right, and I'm on the fence, I want to know what it'll mean to me, or whether I should go, or that, so really it goes back to the genres you're doing it. Say you're like, hey, I want to be a sound designer, I want to Foley in and slice up some watermelons. You don't
Yeah.
need to go to film school for that. That's something you can do on your own really easily. But it'd be good, if you're already in film school, to do the Foley for the experience of it. But then it gets labyrinthine, because you are like, oh, what if I want to be an editor? Well, with editing, it's one of those things that everyone wants a skilled laborer, so school would be more advantageous in that area, but it's still a yellow light. It's not a green light that says, yeah, man. So you want to be a cinematographer. Well, it's one of those things where you could work on student films, or you could work on your own films, and it's all kind of more or less the same, really,
Yeah.
So it's kind of one step forward, two steps back. Gaffing is where I'd recommend some level of education, just electricity, so you're not burning the house down, So it's like, gaffing is where I think the school should put you in, and teach you to be like, okay, don't put a 500 volt thing into a 60 amp breaker. You're gonna blow
Now you're
something
talking
up.
about electrician school.
Yeah,
That's a trade school.
That's basically what it is, though.
Yeah. Well, we should catch everybody up. You're John Alston. This is the third time you've been able to visit. Well, virtually visit this time, so that's 2 times for a virtual.
Yeah, 2 times, yeah.
You hit me up yesterday, and you're like, I want to do something about filmmaking.
Oh yeah, it's a process. It's frustrating, because it's like you're just cutting a piece of the film into a version that's finished, but you're like, man, it could be better. It could be better. So yeah, I think where it goes back to the film school of thought is that narrative films and animation. Well, no, with narrative films, so many people are self-taught. The Rodriguez and Tarantino, like, a billion. So I wouldn't. That's still a yellow light. Where I think the green light is animation, because the thing is, you can do weird things with live action and say, oh, I meant to do that. He meant to be out of focus. He meant to be underexposed. He meant to be looking at someone else's mouth and really looking in the distance. Like, you could say all of that, but you can't do that with animation. So the ability to foul up in animation is something that I think is very valuable and can be self-taught, but it's like, if you're already going, if you're not, don't go out of your way. But like, if you're on the fence, get mentored and have that bubble window, because when someone notices a mistake in animation, they don't say, oh, that's an artistic choice.
That's true. That's true.
It's like
prime examples of that would be the Disney phallic castle that they had to remove out of the Little Mermaid.
Here's the thing: is angry animators always put in subliminal messages,
right?
Like,
isn't that crazy and
kind
of
like
creepy?
Hundreds, from what I heard of, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
What?
Oh yeah, like from kind of things slipping in and explicit to, like, there's a scene in the train where if you freeze frame it, it shows people like attacking each other, like on the train with like sharp objects and rope. It's crazy.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
like,
Oh man. And what was it? That frame in The Lion King where you could see SEX and the debris that was flying off.
Here's the thing is I'm actually vouching for Disney animators in that point, because the special effects team who are making the particle animation, they want to get credit, and they aren't thinking that F could be an E that easily, because it's clearly an F when it starts out, but as it blows around, it looks more E-like.
Yeah, definitely. So they were doing SFX was the idea?
Yeah, that's what I believe.
Okay. Oh, I've never heard that defense. I like that idea.
Yeah, that's what, because it isn't one of those things where it's the rescuers where an animator clearly got a bad day and is like, I hate you guys, I'll throw this in. No, this is, I think, a tribute to the people who do the special animation effects, but it
yeah, I see it now.
Once you're looking for a subliminal message, you're gonna find one.
Well, and if you look at the later cuts of that film, they've
removed it. I don't know. They keep George Lucasing the Lion King, where it's like, if you notice, they actually reanimated the crocodiles and they look better, but like it's not the same animation. It's like, oh, right. Okay, we have time to fix that shot.
I miss the stop motion. Talking about Lucas, I miss the stop motion trash compactor creature. I thought that was great. Frame for frame, it had to deal with water, so that makes it tricky.
Oh, nice.
I mean, it looked really good for stop motion. I really like that. The Tauntauns too. I miss the original Tauntauns.
Yeah, that's the kind of Phil-typic go motion. You know, with those things, they put like a little rotor, and they spun the things around, so there's a little bit of motion blur, and so it gives it that living creature quality.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Oh yeah.
So we started off, though, we were talking about the debate between going to film school and whether or not it's necessary, and then just being Joe Blow off the street trying to make creative product.
Oh, yeah.
And get it seen. So one of the arguments that you were saying for film school is animation, especially if you're going into animation.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to see technology. You're going to be able to see the trends that are developing. You're going to be working with people of all types, because you have to build from, as an animator, you're going to need a director. You're going to need a casting director, right? You're not going to be trying to make the whole thing yourself.
If you're wanting someone else to steer the ship, you know?
Yeah, well, there's that too. I mean, if you want to be the writer, director, animator, you're still going to need the cinematographer and the lighting guys, right? You're still going to need that network of
with
or at least the producers.
Unless it's stop motion, the lighting is the frame. It's the technology used. But the trouble with that is in a way, working with people and working for yourself are two different skills. So that's a different rabbit hole if you want to go down there.
Well, that's one of the neat things, though, about going to film school that I really was hoping for, was that camaraderie, to be in the same environment with the people that are wanting to make stuff.
I mean, it's harder out of film school, but you know, the thing about that is you with Facebook now, you can be like, oh, Chase's action comedy project. You don't want to make a 20-minute short, but you probably want to make like a 2-minute short. You know, 2 minutes, action comedy, something that isn't as ambitious as it seems, but something that seems ambitious. Chase's action comedy mud fight movie. And then you put it on Facebook, and you have your friends who aren't very committed like it, and then you'll have one or two who are committed, and those will be the ones you cast in your movie, you know? And, you know.
So you're talking about building your own community?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
rather
gotten
than going
so
to film school
easy
for it, it's gotten easy to be able to create. And it's not just a community in proximity, it's a community around the world, because it's the web and you can use all kinds of communication.
Oh yeah, you could, if you really want a janky movie, you could crowdfund your movie, start it out Chase waking up in the morning and yawning and smashing his alarm clock or some type of cliche, and then hand it off for someone else to continue the narrative, like be like Inception on steroids.
So what's the first step? You've been making some shorts yourself. What's the first step in getting your art out there? What are you doing?
Oh,
Let's say you've gone to film school or you're skipping film school.
yeah.
Now it's time to actually
Well,
get out
what
there.
I first say is, what type of movie is worth getting out of my comfort zone for? Because the thing is, if you only go on your comfort zone, then what happens is your cinematic muscles get weak. And so it's better to break your cinematic muscles working on something you can't imagine doing than to break them by just doing the same thing over and over and over again.
It sounds like you're saying pick something that's going to stretch you each time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you've picked a project. Do you pick it as far as like an idea first, or do you go through and you try to read some scripts to get some ideas?
What I do is I basically try to figure out the tone I want before I storyboard, because the trouble is if I don't get the right tone, then it kind of messes up the storyboard, because then you say you wanted to make a G-rated, Disney type movie, you wouldn't storyboard a really bloody fight scene, for example, but in spur of the moment, you might do that for the excitement of it, and then be like, oh no, I created a different movie. And that's the thing is, I think what you have to do is decide on your tone first and then storyboard based on that tone, because once things get lost, you can't really put them back, because things shift. It's like gravity. It shifts around, and you just have to see what you actually have by the time you're done with it.
So I've heard a lot of people say that they create something every day. Is that something for you too?
Every day is kind of rigorous, but I would say always be thinking of the movie that you want to see next. Like, not even the movie you want to make next, because if that were the case, you would just be making kind of angry rap movies or something, where it's like you can just shoot something fast and make it on your cell phone, but make something where it's like you want to see that movie next, so the thing is, with Jake and the Dino Cat, since it's claymation, I got very burned out on it. So now I'm just trying to ease myself back into the process.
Yes, I've heard that and I feel this way myself on creative projects when I'm taking on a big one where it's got a lot of edits and a lot of just post-production, right? Or even pre and post-production. Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah, do the double whammy. By the time I'm done with it, the way I know that I'm done with it is I'm fully sick with it. I'm just sick of it. I can't stand looking at it anymore. Anything I'm going to do, like there's this wall, there's this threshold, and when I pass it, anything I add to it after that, it's going to make it worse.
Oh yeah,
even if it could be better.
Like you're climbing the ladder, and you got a ledge, and you have to grab that ledge, because you can't let it all go, because it's no longer yours. It's kind of part of the universe.
Yeah, it's living on its own. There's this moment, that too, where when I get burned out on it, the way I know that I'm fully burned out is I'm like, you know what, this is crap. I'm throwing it all away. And but what you're talking about is what keeps me from doing that. Is I go, no, it's actually already alive. There's something in it that's asking me to keep it alive and help it get on its feet, even if it's crap. It's like, well, now it's not my crap anymore. It's
not your crap.
That's so cool. I thought that was one of my own things, so I'm glad to hear it's more than more than me that feels that way.
2 people.
Yay!
7 billion.
That's 100% increase over what I knew a minute ago.
Oh,
if the numbers are not impressive, always look at percentages. That's the way.
That's funny.
Yeah, there's an analyst tool right there. So we've got it. We've got the idea. We've got the theme. We've got the feeling, the movie that we want to see next. So now it's time to start pre-production planning.
Oh man, you gotta. I hate to be this one brick wall where it's like, this is the only way, but I can't really think of another way. If you're making this big, deep drama, don't disregard this advice. But if you're making a genre film, like, have 20 panels, 20 square 16 by 9 panels, and then draw those panels with the ugliest stick figures you can, and that's your movie. That's your movie on the,
I love that.
on the paper. And as you realize you develop, you can say, oh, I don't need this shot. And I do like what Lucas does, where he just X's over a storyboard, and
so that's what happened to the plot of Attack of the Clones.
Oh man.
Just a bunch of X's. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Oh man.
It was asking for it. You know what? That's what happened. That's what happened to Indiana Jones 4 right there, because I had heard they had a complete script that Lucas agreed on and the writers agreed on.
Oh, that's like the Shawshank guy.
They were all set. It was ready to go.
Shawshank, Frank Darabont's like, I liked it. And Kathleen Kennedy and George Lucas did not like that one script.
Right. And so like, they went and they went X. And it's like, no, it had to have been better. A rumor had it. Rumor had it they were going to do, I don't know if this is true or not, that the original script for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was actually Indiana Jones and the Haunted Castle. And right. They were trying to stick with this whole adventure at a time. Hey, better than the aliens, okay? That's all I got to say. But so that's what the castle Broombald is in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That's the only element of that original script that stayed. And that's what the whole movie was going to be about. So they kept it.
Have that kind of spooky, campy feel. And I think I really like the castle there, where with the
it's great
doorways. It's stupid, to be honest, but it's
fun.
likable.
It's tropey fun.
It's fun, yeah.
It's better than Space Wind, Chad. That was for Chad.
It's kind of like if you have Spielberg going all over the place with his realism and Lucas going all the way with his kind of plotting, you kind of get two extreme circles, which is kind of what Crystal Skull is. That's like
fair.
Over the top plausibility meets over the top plotting, and so it just, there's a lot that's lost in translation. And I bet there was a really good film in there, and I thought it was just okay-ish.
Listening to Dan Aykroyd talk about the Crystal Skulls mystery, there was a really good movie to be had in there, and they went for a car chase with vines and monkeys.
Monkeys and vines, yeah.
And giant ants.
Well, the giant ants I can explain as being kind of a hangover from the B-movie, kind of them and the Naked Jungle, where it's the over-top 1950s B-movie. But I think the trouble is, since these aren't real, they're simulated, it makes it seem less intense than it actually is,
Well, it's true, because the monkey scene in The Rundown with Dwayne Johnson and Seann William Scott is hilarious, and it's great. And it's fake, but they actually used live animals here and there. And they mixed it with practical effects, and it's so funny, right? That's the other thing, is it didn't take itself seriously, and I feel like Indy 4 takes itself seriously.
Well, Indy 4 is weird. It's got an identity crisis because it wants to be this Last Crusade fun movie, but it also wants to be, look at aliens, they're creepy. And I'm like, X-Files eats your lunch. You know, if you want creepy X-Files aliens, you've got a better franchise. And if you want to have a fun adventure, you could just write this script
Which
better.
it's funny. Wasn't Last Crusade? It came out in 91, I think.
89.
Was it 89?
Because I remember Batman. I don't remember because I wasn't born. But like,
wait, what?
I was live. Oh, okay, got really weird. I remember the IMDb listing. You know, not. So it's like, you know, Last Crusade's the better movie, but Batman is the bigger zeitgeist. So
sure, yeah. Where I was going with that though is 89. Last Crusade comes out. You got 2 years till 91, where the X-Files.
Oh snap! Off. Yeah.
So X-Files that we just established. X-Files is the real Indiana Jones 4.
Oh, well.
No,
well, in a way, the way I see it is, the Mummy is the transition.
Yeah.
From Indiana Jones to Crystal Skull. So if you watch The Mummy before Crystal Skull, you'll like Crystal Skull a little more and a little less at the exact same time.
But the reason I liked The Mummy was because it was Indiana Jones not taking itself seriously and making it fun.
No,
it went over the top. It was It was a B+ movie, right?
It's not trying to be an A movie.
Yeah. I love seeing Stephen Sommers in the outtakes of Van Helsing, by the way.
Okay, cool.
Van Helsing's somebody's pistol, the prop breaks in half. And you see Stephen Sommers out there holding both halves. He goes, you see this? When I do an A-list movie, this kind of stuff won't happen.
Well, that is really awesome. And I think there could be something said about self-reflexivity in putting yourself in your work. But I also think it's one of those things that you should only do it if it's appropriate. Like if you're like, hey, you know, this sci-fi film is taking itself too seriously. I'll just put myself being like, oh man, them aliens are attacking or something, you know. But I think when in doubt, when you're like, should I cast myself or not? The answer is no, because the thing is, other people can see what you can't, and vice versa.
Yeah, definitely got to get Ron Howard. Fantastic masterclass, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Ron Howard's masterclass was great. And he talks about what he picked up from Scorsese was having a tripod. So
that is funny.
He talks about you have to have, you know, you've got an inner circle where it's trust. You've got a writer you trust. You've got a cinematographer you trust, and then you, right? But then that handles one aspect of it, like the visual matching the script and getting the feel of the script in the visuals. But then you have to have another tripod for the casting. So you got to have you, but then you got to have a good casting director that you trust. And then you've got to have like a producer or somebody that's just that totally outside the technical perspective that's just going to say, nobody wants to look at that person in that role. Yeah, they're great, but nobody wants to look at that person. And when you get the three going, yeah, definitely. So coming back to what you were talking about, having the people you trust, because you can't see everything.
No, absolutely not.
And that's my argument against Kubrick. Kubrick could have been better, but it would have been a very different feel. So Kubrick is great as Kubrick. But, you know, what would Kubrick have been if he had allowed creative input from other people?
Oh, yeah. You know, and in a way, this goes to another notch, is distribution. The thing is, with YouTube, you can just send it out there. But, you know, the trouble is people are mean. So, you know, how much you hold the film back from being sent out there depends on what type of person you are and what you like to see. You know, it's like, you know, if if you don't do film festivals, you know, the trouble is people will gang up on your thing. You know, it's like the
Yeah.
Earth is round. It's like maybe it is. It probably is. Satellites photos kind of prove that thing. But if it's not, is that going to destroy my fabric of reality? And
Yeah.
for some people, it would, and they hit that dislike button. You know.
I tell you, man, it's hard. A lot of the guys I know that are artistic, they don't look at likes or dislikes. They put it out there and then they duck and cover. Um, I don't mind. I actually feel like I'm doing pretty good when I get hate mail. It's
Oh,
like at least you watched it enough to know that you didn't like it, and you know, except you missed the point or
yeah.
yeah. But I'd love to talk. I love talking with people that disagree with me, and that's where I really luck out and where I feel safe somewhat in the YouTube world. I haven't lost any subscribers yet, though.
Oh,
And
nice, cool.
that's going to be the thing. Like when I see that number start dropping, I have a fear of that. That's going to be rough.
I think the thing about subscribers is it's basically your fans. So you know it's. But if you do, here's where I feel like film festivals are good is because you're having a small room of people who are probably other filmmakers watching their own films in most cases, um, who are appreciating the short film as a piece of work, oh, okay, this film is done, but it's by someone who's in the process of trying to be an accomplished filmmaker. There's a sense of understanding, and I don't think you get it straight from YouTube.
Yeah. So it, if I'm hearing you right, sounding like by getting some credibility from other people in the industry, you're less likely to get beat up when you put your stuff out there because they'll say,
No,
oh, well, Scorsese appreciates this, which means I should probably look a little deeper than just attacking it.
I mean, yeah, but where I want to go with this, sorry if I seem like I'm pulling you along, because I want
No,
this to
please.
be like Jaws masterclass in filmmaking, like where you
Yeah.
watch it and you're like, I don't need to have any more videos from John because he put everything in
Oh,
there.
we can't do that. I got to have you back.
Oh snap! Okay. Oh snap! Oh snap! No, but like
So,
if
well, if we're going to do masterclass, then we've done concept, right? Where
yeah
you start with the feel and you're going to go with something that's going to stretch you. And
yeah
then we've talked about surrounding yourself with a good team. So
oh yeah
get the good team and you iron out a bit of a production schedule, like what order you want to shoot it in, what you can afford to
yep
do. So it's shooting time.
yeah.
What is that like?
Always shoot the endings first
Really?
because the thing is you want to know where everything will end up.
But this is
And the thing,
animation, right?
what?
For animation specifically or everything?
I would say for all movies,
Oh,
because the thing is, if the trouble is, if you have this character have this big dramatic journey and you don't see the end in sight, you don't really know what you're aiming for. It's kind of like having the basketball backboard and not having the little square. The ending's the square that you aim at, and whatever the film becomes is whatever it is. You know.
okay. So you're shooting the ending first.
Yeah.
How do you prep a cast for that then? Because there's going to be an element of them immersing in the character as you shoot. So that means that your very first shot, they're either 100% already immersed in that character, or they're going to feel a little less like that character at the very end of your movie where it's important.
I mean, in a way, this is where animation gets good. It's like with animation, you're like, hey, my character is at the end of his or her emotional journey. I'll, I'll, um, Sorry, blanked out.
No, I got you. You're fine.
Start with the ending and kind of work my way back. I think the thing is, with a script, I record all the lines so I know that they're there. But in terms of actual animation, I start with the ending, because the thing is, if no part of the movie is good, the ending should at least be good.
Yeah. Hook them in the first 15 minutes and then kill it on the ending. That's kind of the arc I've heard of.
Yeah, well, what the trouble with phones is that people have people lose their attention span. So it's like, I would say hook them in the first 6 or 7 minutes.
Sure.
And then,
yeah,
you know,
I won't disagree, especially if you're doing YouTube, right? Because I think we should talk about that for a minute, is how you make a film festival film that's going to go to theater at some point and be ignored because it was a film festival success, but it's not a Michael Bay movie. But how you would do a film festival movie versus how you would do a commercial box office movie versus how you would do YouTube, which is very different because it's very compressed. And then we could even go to the extreme of Instagram, right? Where it's just, if you're going to do an Instagram movie, it's over.
Okay.
Right. So how would you adjust across those?
Have a person like sigh, scream, help me, you know, with his mouth open and like not say anything, and people are like, is it real, is it not? Then you have viral sensation.
Yeah.
Once.
Well, they did that with Cloverfield.
Oh wow.
The Blair Witch is probably the best success story of that, though.
Oh.
The video or snippets of the video and rumors of the crew disappearing were being floated a year before the movie hit, which I thought was so clever. If you can break that fourth wall and get the audience engaged, I think that's where it really becomes interesting.
I mean, in a way, here's the trouble with viral internet, is that people grab onto things they care about and then they just let everything go. So it's like, you know, with the internet, it's like, what happened this year? It's January. It's, you know, and so I think when you're trying to hype something up, what you want to make sure is the audience who appreciates it the most gets it, you know.
Mass intimacy is something I've heard recently, where you come up with something that connects with people one-on-one, but on a mass scale.
Oh yeah.
Right? You're not trying to connect with a crowd. You're trying to connect with a crowd of individuals.
Oh yeah.
And have that locked in, that emotional exchange there. Do you feel like that's what you do with your animation? Or is it, are you writing for one?
You know, it's funny. It's like, what happens is I write for the viewer who I think I am, but what happens is I change while I work on the film. So then my desires are a little bit different, and so it's like, when you start out, you're trying to, you can't market it the way you started out, because what you ended up was different. You know, I started out trying to aim for a chicken run G, and it feels more like a Hunchback of Notre Dame G.
That's a good example. Do you feel like that makes your work better, or do you feel like that's something you have to discipline?
I think it's kind of like, I think all film work is discipline. So I think what happens is you should aim higher, so that if more gets lost in translation, you'll still end up with more than what you started with, you know?
Let's talk about something that's huge in Hollywood and, well, the world right now: production delays.
Oh man, I would not do live action.
Well, even if you're doing animation, you're going to hit those roadblocks, right? The animator gets sick, or let's say, as a creator, I know I run into this. I'll start a project and I'll be gung-ho about it, and then hit a severe depression spiral.
Oh yeah, that
And it'll sit for like 8 months and I won't do anything with it. I've got a project that's fully shot that's 3 years old now. And I haven't started editing it. Not even a little bit. And it's just that lull. So how do you...
What I would do would give it off to a different editor, and then they can see what the film is to them. And it won't be the same film, but it will have a life of its own, and you can see that life rather than try to make yourself be something different. Because here's the thing is, I would rather you be out there and you have your experiences than, just kind of consume yourself with making a movie so much you destroy the type of person you are. It's it might mean delegation, but that's part of the process.
It's a great point. What if you don't have those friends around you, though? Is that where that comes back to what we were talking about at the beginning with building your support system or your community? We said community earlier, but that's where a community can become a support system, right?
Oh yeah, it's definitely. I think with animators, you don't want to lean on other animators for support, because they don't support. Animators are a different breed of animals. They'll toast you before they support you, but like that's where your whole family and friends are. They'll be your support. And if the thing is, you're only unsupported when you make a movie that nobody likes, and that's I don't know what that would be. That would probably be something that's like a Hallmarky type movie. That movie will probably get you enemies. Is like, if you make this sweet Hallmark type movie, people will be like, that's cliche.
It'll probably star James Marsden.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Poor Cyclops.
Oh man, I like James Marsden.
I love him. I really do. Oh man, that poor guy. He just can't keep controlling it.
Call it 45, where he's having a midlife crisis. He's 45 and he's trying to find love, and write it as a joke and watch it get $1 billion.
Hey, you know what? You ever heard the Beastie Boys song, "You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party"? You know what I'm talking about? They wrote that as a parody of all the party songs that were existing at the time, because they hated them. They hated them so bad, and I think it's their biggest hit in history.
Oh man.
So yeah, I mean, there's value in that, right? If you hate something, like, write your version of it, like, mock it and see what happens. I did that the other day, and it's one of my more successful videos. I did a conspiracy theory video. And I was like, all I did was read you a declassified CIA document. And it's huge. I don't get it. I guess that comes back to, though, people like controversy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They like something to dislike.
Oh, yeah.
That's why the villains are always the best, right?
Oh, in a way, the villains are ways that a screenwriter can show his or her cynical side and put it out there,
Yeah, that's a great point, too.
Yeah.
So we skipped an important part, though, of filmmaking: funding.
Oh,
obtaining funding, like pursuing funding. Because, I mean, you can do something on the cheap, but on the cheap is still 10 grand. Funding.
Well, the thing is, I think the thing is, you have to realize how much things cost. And so, if you're like, hey, I want it to look good, well, you probably want a grip to shape the light. You probably want, $2,000 light kit. You probably want a camera that can handle higher resolution. So you probably want all those things. And the thing is, what do you absolutely need? And I think the thing you absolutely need is good sound, which is less than 300, you know.
I don't know anymore, man. I've been looking at mics lately. It's expensive.
Has it gotten up? It might have
Uh,
gotten up since I've been to film school. Like,
we'll
it was
just say the
pretty-
portable recorders, right? So the Zoom in1, that's a big popular item.
Oh,
You're in it for $179. But that's with no accessories. That's with no like windsock. That's no, and then you gotta, but honestly, I'm working with cheap stuff myself, and it's about how much work you want to put into it.
oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
good sound, to your point, you might be able to do it with 150 bucks. You know, if I add it up, really, I started this podcast with $112 worth of stuff. So, and that's just audio, right? That I accumulated across like 15 years. So it's old and outdated too. But, you know, that's a really good point that you're making, though. You can take like donated mics, and if you really push hard and craft the sound, you can still get great sound out of it and it not be a distraction for your story.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you know, sound is the thing you absolutely need. And anything, sound and editing are the two things you need, and anything else is kind of a bonus.
The cast.
I mean, the cast, you could be like, I'm alone in my old mansion and make a wistful kind of depressed type movie, but you know, you could do that and it wouldn't be the end of the world. But cast is kind of something you should get once you got your editor and your sound recorder. You know, it's like, because the thing is with cast, it's like two characters can become one if one doesn't show up. So you have to think in terms of who can I keep and who can I not shoo out, but like transition out if someone else does the line deliveries better. It's just how it is. It's not personal, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's something it's hard when you're auditioning.
Oh man.
You try to keep that in mind, though. It's not you as a person or you as an actor. It's just, at the end of the day, were you what they wanted for that film? And maybe you'll be what they want for the next 10 films, but you weren't that day, you know? I mean, how many times did Lucas say, I'm not casting Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones?
Like,
apparently it was a lot.
You had other guys. Like, here's the thing. Here's the funny thing. I think Kurt Russell would have made a good Indiana Jones, but I don't think he would be as fun as Harrison Ford. Like,
well, Harrison brought I would have expected something funny from Kurt Russell.
Yeah, he would. Yeah. It's kind of
I would not have thought that, like, when I'm watching Harrison Ford, he's going to play it straight, even if it's over the top funny.
Yeah.
Him playing it straight is what makes it funny.
Yeah, exactly. Like the part in Temple of the Doom where he gets poisoned. Like, that's
so good. So good. It's so tropey, but it's so tropey is what I'm picking up from my last podcast with Chad, by the way. Tropey. I just like saying it now. But yeah, it's so tropey. And then the whole chasing the vial through the whole the Obi-Wan cafe.
The movie starts to go south once they actually go to India.
Oh, it's true. Once you can't see Dan Aykroyd having them board the plane, it's over. The movie's done.
Yeah, I actually think Temple of Doom would make a good half an hour movie. You just end it with Indiana Jones creating a whatever that thing, parachute raft, and then end it. you know.
Yeah, that would have been the perfect ending when it comes to a stop at the end of the slope, and that local is standing there like looking down on him. Oh man, he was a real local too. They had to like phonetically give him the lines because he
Oh
didn't
wow.
speak a lick of English.
Oh wow.
So they shot those shots where he was telling the story of the stones and stuff. That's why it's cut up so much. If
Oh,
you
that's
look at how
weird.
many cuts there are, it's because they couldn't get the guy to say a whole line in one shot.
That's funny.
But,
Well,
so I digress. I digress, though. Getting into movie geekdom here.
the
So
trouble is a movie appreciation is a different process than film making.
that's a
You
good
can
point.
appreciate something without knowing how to do it, and I think what's most important in terms of filmmaking is to have in terms of completing the project is to have a timeline with the things assembled, shots assembled, and taking it one piece at a time, not just trying to do everything in one day because you go crazy.
So this is where I think theater background is crucial for not just the crew, but for the cast too. You're used to doing it under pressure. You're used to doing it in a sequence, and you're used to rehearsing different segments of that sequence, right? You can just jump into scene 24 to rehearse it so that the rehearsals are going efficiently. And when you've got that kind of discipline, when you've got the line memory and the blocking and the staging, and then you've got the crew in on it too, like the lighting and the camera work and everything, you're going to have an efficient production. I'm a huge fan
sense.
of trying to recruit theater background people. But am I wrong with that?
I'm for that too. I think it's better to tell a theater person to peel back than to not get a good actor. It's like,
but then you look at somebody like Paul Walker, who he literally walked in off the street, had no filmmaking, not, I won't say filmmaking, but he had no formal acting education whatsoever. And we refer to those people as the actors with a more natural approach. That's the nice way to say it. But he could connect with an audience, which is, I think, the same thing about directors.
Something you can't buy. It's like, it's like, I'm not gonna pretend to have the screen presence of Samuel L. Jackson. Like,
it's easy. Just say MF a lot.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's true. He does. Like when you see him,
yeah,
you're instantly drawn in. A gravitas. So, but how do you engineer that into your animation? Because with animation, there's no cast, right? Other than the actual casting.
With the animation, it's what's most important is that the characters' eyes are expressive. Because if their eyes are expressive, they're telling the story. So you might want to peel their clay up or down or around, and so it's more work, but I think it's worth it to have a better final product than to just let the mouths do all the talking.
Sure. So do you take in account the color of the clay and how that reacts to the light, things like that, like those aesthetics too?
Oh, well, what happens is the chroma key kind of limits your genre, because the thing is, if you put chroma key and you don't have the perfect lighting, you have key spill, and it's so much easier to see key spill in color than in black and white. So yeah, that's why I'm black and white. It's like,
it's a forgotten medium. I love black and white.
Oh man, black and white's amazing, because I think black and white can really bring out kind of contrast in a way that color kind of doesn't,
Yeah, definitely. And I like that it includes the audience in their imagination of what it looks like in color.
Yeah, in a way, it makes you look at the film as a work of fiction and not so much realism. And I think what that does is that it allows you to be immersed into the world of the movie more. Though I think with color, it's good when you combine it with widescreen. Like if you have a big landscape and you want to show it off, you know, you would probably want it to be a color widescreen.
That's a great point.
format.
I do prefer Westerns in color.
Oh, I mean, with Westerns, I would say that the location is just pops out more. I think,
Especially in the era when Westerns were so big, I'm thinking 60s, 70s.
early 60s, yeah.
Early 60s, when the Technicolor was too extreme. They hadn't quite dialed in the subtlety of the colors and the Technicolor technique back then. So you're right. Maybe that's part of why those Westerns were so big.
That could be it. Though with a lot of these Westerns, this is me being more or less a nerd. A lot of these Westerns, they used Eastman Kodak stock, and it's more muted. So it could be that some of the Technicolor you're seeing isn't Technicolor at all.
You're thinking it's actual color?
But a different film stock? No, it's still being color, but it be more subdued.
Oh, okay. No, I mean a different color.
It's more vibrant, and with Eastman color, it's more kind of chalky looking, for lack of a better word.
No, I'll agree with that too. Yeah, I could see that because it gives it that grain too. You can't.
I mean, the grain is the image. The grain will always be there unless you shot it on an iPhone.
We are so lucky. We've got recording studios in our pockets.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Unreal. And that's a factor. I was seeing, who was I talking to? Oh, I was talking to my wife the other day about there's this kids show that's got one kid that's talking to the audience, and she's so magnetic. Like, she's super young, but she's got all of the characteristics of what we were talking about with trying to pull people in and connect with them. And she's got it at such a young age. And I said, either this took a lot of takes and a lot of work, or we're seeing the emergence of a multi-generational YouTube world where we're used to being in front of a camera and being broadcast all the time. Like, you have to get comfortable with it quick.
In a way, I think what we're doing, like right here, is a form of broadcasting. So it's kind of, I would call it unedited documentary broadcasting, you know?
Yeah.
So I think people are get used to it, but I also think screen presence is something someone either has or doesn't have. It's not something I think you can learn, but at the same time, I'm not saying people who don't have it, you know? It's like,
you might have to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like being an ugly guy at the prom. You're going to get a date. You might have to work for it a bit.
It's like we're in.
All right. So we haven't covered soundtrack yet. We haven't covered the music. We haven't covered scoring.
Oh, scoring would be something I'd recommend film school for, because the thing is you can get sample libraries, but you wouldn't get access to a big orchestra unless your film was millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands or really expensive. So for that once in a lifetime type opportunity, I would recommend the film school for that. But I also think you can do it on your own, and you can use sample libraries. The production sound stock music is something I would generally try to avoid if I can, because even if it sounds good, it'll sound inconsistent to the rest of the music. But at the case of my movie, I'm like, I want this part to be the best part of the movie. So I bought stock music.
Your score, I mean, your soundtrack your scoring for this last one, Jake and the Dino Cat, I loved every bit of the music in it.
Oh, nice.
So much good music in that. And I know some of it was stuff that you put together with your own samples, and some of it was, like you said, some stock music here and there. But I really thought it meshed well, and thought your music editing on that was just perfect. It was so good.
With music editing, I actually think it's more important than good sound design.
Completely agree with that.
You know, you can, no offense, Ben Burt, but it's like,
I love Ben Burt.
I had to choose between Ben Burt and John Williams. John Williams, those lasers can go, make kazoo sounds, but as long as John Williams is scoring the movie, I'm gonna be on.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, coming back to tropes, I hate sound in space. It bugs me. You should not have sound in space. It doesn't exist. It's not true. So if we take all the sound effects out of Star Wars for the space sequences, and you just had John Williams, it'd still be good.
It would be good.
But you can't do the interior shots, like let's say in the Death Star, they're shooting at each other. You can't do those scenes. You can't do those scenes without soundtrack. No, you can't do those scenes without sound design. Effects? But you could do them without John.
Oh.
You could do them without Williams. I mean,
that would be very boring. Have you seen the Throne?
Yeah, but I would still watch it. Is kind of my point. The sound in space, or no sound in space, but John Williams, I'd love. But I think it flips. I don't think you could do Death Star scenes with just John Williams and no blaster sounds or anything like that. I just don't think that would work.
I mean, it wouldn't be complete.
Yeah, and I wouldn't watch it, but I'd watch it the other way. I'd watch it with sound effects but no score.
Whoa! You've lost me.
In the Death Star, in Atmo, I would enjoy watching Star Wars with sound design only.
Oh man, if that case, I'm gonna go on the other end and have it. I'd watch Star Wars with sound, with the music, and no sound effects, and black and white, and just
black and white would be good.
4:3 with this kind of artificially blown up because it was shot in widescreen. I would watch that version of Star Wars, maybe on VHS, but I wouldn't watch it without music.
Watch it on Betamax. Yeah, I mean, I see where you're at. I don't know. I don't feel that way inside. I don't feel that way on planet. I feel that way for the space stuff. But anyway. All right, so scoring. Is there anything else we want to talk about on scoring before we leave that topic?
I think the thing about scoring is, the thing is with arranging music. I think the more complicated you make your arrangement, the more complexities you're going to have to put to your scoring. So I would say, like, watch YouTube videos on arranging music before you take a crack at it, so you aren't putting chords on your oboe.
Yeah, so that's an element that we haven't discussed yet, is we're talking about going to film school.
Yeah.
Or not. But can YouTube and Khan Academy and Masterclass and things like that are available broad scale, can those act as a sufficient replacement, do you think?
I would say 75% of the skill set that you learn in film school can be found online.
I haven't been to film school, but from what I can tell, I've got no reason to disagree with you. But what I don't know, and I think this is where people have trouble, is which 25% is the 25% that I can't do.
Oh, well, you absolutely can make a student film, because even if you make a really, really good film, it's not a student film. You're not a student. It's all right. It's semantics. But so you can't make a student film. and you're going to have peers who are at different skill levels as you know, where as in film school you would have students who are mostly better than you, you know, and but still kind of at a different stage. Um, and I think formal instruction and those three things are kind of the things that make film school viable, but controversial, because it's like, the thing is, if you don't need all three of those things, you've saved yourself $20,000.
Now, one of the things that I thought about a lot was the being part of a pool that's being actively recruited from. But I don't know how true that is anymore.
I don't actually think it's that true.
Yeah, I think if you're not in the area, in the business already, you're really not.
No, because the thing is, the student films are at a different scale than the TV shows that are shot regionally. So you're probably better off, oh man, this will get me in trouble, but like jumping off the school and onto the set, or onto the set, you know.
Or maybe some kind of both.
Maybe like both, yeah, both would be ideal.
Try to be an extra on shows being shot in the area.
Yep.
Be on the crew, try to be holding, you know, being the boom guy. Oh my gosh. That's a role I've never wanted. I just can't hold, I don't want to hold the boom mic over my head.
I'm too wiggly. I've tried it a few times and I've disappointed everybody. It's like,
I just don't want to. I'll prefer to be the guy editing it, where the wiggly guy was getting, you know, uneven audio.
Coverage, you know.
I'd rather fix that than have to hold.
You hear the rattling on the poles.
Yeah. Yeah.
ADR.
Okay, so distribution now. How do you get in touch with people to distribute your work? Let's say you're not going to do Vimeo, you're not going to do YouTube, you're going to do straight out of film school, find a distributor. The old school commercial way. What does that look like?
The trouble with distributors is most are very, very picky. You know, so what you want to do is find a film festival that has a distributor attached to it and get in that one. But the thing is, film festivals that aren't monthlies are very picky too. So, you know, you kind of have to, what I think everyone should do if they're going the festival route is to do a promotion. And that way, the only people who are responding to your film festival submission are the people interested in your film. And that way it's $20. But the thing is, it's the price of 2 submissions or 2 big pizzas, you know. So the thing is, you know, for 2 big pizzas, you can have every single film festival on Film Freeway see your movie exists.
Which is cool. Which is
really cool.
Now, you're local to Winston-Salem, Greensboro area.
Yeah.
Which has got Winston-Salem School of the Arts, which
you
know Danny McBride is a graduate of. And,
there's a lot of cool alumni there.
Yeah, and Zach Galifianakis, he's from North Wilkesboro. He's not far away either. So we've got talent around us.
Yeah.
But when the tax rebates went away, all the work went down to Georgia.
Yeah.
And at least South Carolina. I've done some work down in Fort Mill, South Carolina a few times. And it's literally, I can throw a rock at the North Carolina line where the studios are. And it's such a challenge now to find work that's local that will actually be connected to something in New York or in LA or Hollywood, any of that. So what are you doing now to try to network? Because you meet so many people when you're working on projects like that. Well, that's why we were saying it's a good idea while you're in school, be an extra on I don't know, the Vampire Diaries. It doesn't matter. Find something.
Yep.
And be involved and be around people, because you never know when someone's going to say, I need that guy right there. So what are you doing to get
I would say
networking in?
with networking, it's kind of like, I think the thing is, it's an extension of exhibition where it's like, oh, I'll meet someone. Like the thing is, the thing is, my advice to people who are doing film festivals is don't do a major film festival, because if you get in one by accident and it's major, it'll turn out the way you want it, and you aren't spending $40-50 trying to make it big on the big leagues. It's like, get in the little leagues, and then if people like it, you can say, hey, this movie did well in the smaller. You can use it as kind of a testing ground.
That's kind of what Romero did, right?
Oh,
George Romero with the Night of the Living Dead and
oh
building
snap!
that whole
that's not
zombie genre.
Zombie genre.
Yeah, because he started very small scale. Sam Raimi did pretty much the same thing.
Oh yeah.
They couldn't find anybody to distribute their stuff early on, and they just started showing it at local theaters and building up from there. Does that still happen?
I think with COVID, you won't have theaters around, but I think what I would do is I would have a filmmaking channel just for that one film, and I'll put it on YouTube. And this is me being a little bit sneaky, but I'm going to refresh 50 times just so I have 50 views initially.
YouTube fixes that, by the way.
Oh, they fixed that? Oh, snap.
Yeah, they fixed that. They also, just FYI, for anybody that's out there real quick on this, if you've got a friend that's got 15 YouTube accounts and they subscribe all their 15 accounts, it takes about a day, and then suddenly they all get consolidated into one.
That's funny.
Because they trace it back and they see, oh, you're just one person.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so you got to watch out for that. You can do that with
2006 YouTube.
You might be able to do that with Vimeo. Might be able to do that with like a website. I don't know about.
I don't know. But the thing is, I think when you do it over 100 times, it's dishonest. It's honest when it's 50.
It was honest at 50. Okay.
Because it's like, it's not too much. You're just enough to make sure that the 51st person is interested. But yeah, you promote your film like it's the best film you can ever make, and hope that nobody knows the truth.
Yeah, that's a good point. Nobody has to know it's your first film. I think that's something that's important too. They just need to see that it's a film.
Yeah, exactly. And with directing, what you generally don't want to do is you don't want to play your hand out too much. Like, so if I made a film, which is probably realistic, that I wasn't happy with, I would not put it on YouTube where everyone can see it. It's like, it's a limited release. You can see it at,
It'll show up eventually, like this Grizzly movie with George Clooney. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh man, no idea.
Oh yeah, it never got a distributor, and it was shot like 30 years ago.
Oh man.
And it just got released.
Oh,
it's on Netflix hilarious. Now. So you can see it's George Clooney. Crap, I can't minimize while I'm doing this. I was trying to multitask and bring it up and give the details, but I'll put the link down below.
I've heard of it. It's been around since the 70s, right? Kind of one of those.
Yeah, right around there, late 70s, early 80s. Yeah.
Late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta make all our creature features before people forget Jaws exists.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah.
And they made they made a lot of creature features in the late 90s, like the
Jurassic Park is
eight-legged
one, if you think of it.
freaks and bats, and it's like,
There's that.
it's just because the computers are able to do it now.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say, kind of like with 3D printing, where I really enjoy that. All I have to do is have the image in my mind and a little bit of determination, and it can exist for other people to see, and it's
Oh, that's
amazing.
cool.
It's so crazy to live in an age where that's so readily available. So distribution, feedback, critics,
Oh,
critics
here's the
dealing
thing
with
about critics
bad audiences.
is the critics that don't go to YouTube for criticism, because they won't give you the right feedback.
No, they're
They'll be
always
like,
wrong.
yeah, it's
I mean,
exactly
they just have no clue. Yeah.
It's like, oh, this actress is so bad, and I'm like, no, I was there, I know she's good, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, and so it's like, it's completely the wrong criticism, and so what happens is with Vimeo, people are more nice and also smart, so it's a good smart and nice dichotomy.
The hard part about Vimeo is I feel like I have to have $20,000 worth of camera though. Like
No,
the stuff I see on Vimeo is
just
so
upload it,
clean.
yeah.
It's so pretty.
It is pretty. It's predates YouTube, so if anything, YouTube is kind of a spawn of Vimeo, you know. So
It's the trailer park version of Vimeo.
yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, I think the thing is, Vimeo is good if you're browsing through movies, but you can't just search something because they do not censor. And so, yeah, like,
Which is
you
great.
know, so you have to
I mean,
know
they
exactly
do.
what you're searching for, you know. So if you search sweet potato on Vimeo, you're like, no,
Don't do that.
don't do that.
Yeah.
You can search sweet potato on YouTube and get a lot of potato recipes, but you can't do that on Vimeo.
So not critics from the YouTube comments, not Facebook, obviously, or Twitter.
No, Facebook, you'll just get your fans.
I'm okay with that. It makes me feel good. Nice and warm and fuzzy with my fans that like my stuff. But I feel like during COVID, we've missed a big opportunity. And I know this has been popping up in places, so it's happening, but it's not on the scale it could be. Drive-in theaters. Why aren't we bringing back drive-in theaters right now? You can socially distance, you stay in your car.
I think it has to do with the type of films that are being released. The directors aren't like, yeah, we want that drive-in movie, but like, yeah, why not throw that bone, you know?
Right. It kills me too. There's a drive-in theater here in Walkertown. Well, Walkertown's just north of where I'm at. I have to drive past it on my way to my day job every day. And it's an old abandoned drive-in. And I just pass it and I see that for lease sign as I go by, and I go,
oh, sad. That'll probably be a Walmart.
How many millions do I need? Like, if we get a couple mil, can we bring it back?
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
I would just love that, especially now too. We've got the technology, talking about sound earlier.
Oh yeah.
You listen to your Dolby Digital surround in your newer cars. I mean, you've got subwoofers in there. You can have the full theater experience. For the sound, and better because you don't have the echo of the big auditorium. You've got isolated, really good sound. I just feel like we're missing an opportunity, though. Like, that could be a great way too, and tying this in with what we were talking about, getting local film out there. They don't have to be doing the big blockbuster every night.
They
do
should
a local
that.
filmmaker night, right?
I think the trouble is everyone is just they're thinking about their movie as a standalone thing and not as a group of things. So I think the thing is that can probably happen with existing festivals, but I think it would take a real kind of collaboration to get it to happen on a smaller scale.
So film festivals are still where it's at, though, as far as trying to get an audience that is going to give you good review. And by good, I mean like accurate. Like they're not
fair
just,
review. Yeah.
yeah, fair reviews. Um, Sorkin likes writing plays, and Steve Martin for the same reason. They still like writing plays because they can kind of put it in a theater production that doesn't require the
I would
multi-million
actually
dollar
recommend plays over filmmaking, because unless you absolutely want this story to be captured on film, you're better off making it in a version that you can see, that can be performed, that, and I'm not saying that most cinematic works, they're good fiction, but they can be a play. With Jake and the Dino Cat, when you have dinosaurs that are also cats, I can't really imagine that being a play. Like, I can't.
But we did cats, so anything's possible.
Pretty soon someone's gonna have a Dino Cat costume.
Hey, nobody has said that they didn't have fur. Dinosaurs
I don't want to know.
We're pretty sure they had feathers. Anyway, coming.
Dinosaurs. Yeah, the
dinosaurs.
Imprints. They've got skin samples, like, which is weird because you see a T-Rex's skin and you're like, that's creepy, but also, wow, T-Rex skin.
Right. Yeah. Where were we? We were talking about something interesting as far as film. Theater.
What? Theater. Yeah.
Yeah. Write a play. Do a play.
Write a play. Yeah.
And I think we're seeing too the value in that with successes like Hamilton. And then going back a few years, A Few Good Men was an Aaron Sorkin play before it was a movie. So.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of men, 12 Angry Men was also a play. So it seems
Glengarry and Glen Ross. That's a favorite of mine.
Oh man,
but nobody knows that one. That's another good play that became a film.
Wait After Dark is a good one.
Nice.
Dial In for Murder. Oh wow, that's
Dial
its own
In
genre.
for Murder. Yes.
The play, that's the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Clue feels like it should have been a play, but wasn't. Like, it just has that stage feel. But I like Clue. I'm not ripping on it too much.
Love Clue. I thoroughly love Clue and Murder by Death. I think we mentioned that last time.
Oh snap!
I still need to find a copy of that because that's Peter Sellers and Sir Alec Guinness.
What?
Murder by Death. It's Peter Sellers and Sir Alec Guinness.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Where are we at? We've got reviews. The next idea. You've come off of one. You're still immersed in that one, but you've already had to start work on the next one.
The next idea. I think the next idea is
coming up with the next idea.
The next idea is the idea that you feel is the most suitable as your kind of epilogue,
So do you go from one project that was one flavor and then immediately go to a polar opposite? Or do you like to go and graduate kind of in the same vein?
I think for me, it's like, what can I do in the next short that I haven't done with this short, And that might mean a lot of uneven films, but I think it'll mean films that are at least different from each other,
How about a notebook of ideas you had while making the first one? Like whatever you were making.
Oh man,
you're talking about spin-off
that's the
ideas.
Final film, though.
Oh yeah.
The final film is the ideas that you liked, and
Yeah, but you had some ideas, right, that you couldn't fit in this movie, but you're like, oh, that should go in a movie at some point.
Oh well, with Jake and the Dino Cat came first. Like I bought a stop motion armature skeleton, and it was all fancy, and I constructed the Dino Cat, and I'm like, wow, I need to make a movie about this. But then the skeleton broke. But
I remember that. That was a rough day.
Yeah, it was a very rough day. It's like, oh, my friend just died.
But he was reborn.
But the thing is, what came out of it is the concept of a dino cat. It's like, oh yeah, that's a good dino, because it shouldn't mix. You shouldn't combine a dinosaur with a cat.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah. If you combine a dinosaur with a dog, that would be.
We kind of already do that, actually. They even did that in Jurassic Park when the T-Rex grabs the Gallimimus and like shakes it. It's got it in its jaws and then kind of shakes it like a dog kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it probably looked out. It's funny.
But not a cat. You don't do it with a cat.
Because cats are very raptor-like. It's bad.
That's why they survived, I guess, against the raptors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you see more cats than you see raptors these days. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think the cats won.
So the next idea, special editions, revisiting your work like after a couple of years or.
It's done when it's done. If it's not, if you haven't revised it to the point that you're comfortable with it in film festival, do not revisit, because the thing was, it's like, oh, I would have changed this side, and this you would have. It's like you would want to rebuild the film from page one, and then it's like, hey, it's done.
Is that when you become an EP on somebody else's version of your work?
I don't know. I haven't gotten there.
It's good. Well, what are we missing, man? I feel like we've walked through making a film from beginning to end. We've talked about a lot of the different segments along the way. What are we missing? How can we tie this up?
I think the thing is, how I would tie this up would say the relationships you make for the people you have during the manufacturing of the movie is more important than the film you actually make.
That's huge. That's awesome. That's a bombshell. You talking cast, and you're talking everybody?
No, not even cast. Like everybody.
Make a movie with people that you want to be friends with for life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
But at the same time, don't make it with your best friends because it might strain the relationship.
Well, it should be new people, right?
New people.
New family.
Yeah.
I hear that from some of the best films that are ever made. Some of the worst too, that you could tell they just had a good time making it. That they came away with. American Outlaws is one of those. The whole cast got along great. The movie bombed. It tanked so bad. But you can tell in the featurettes just how much fun they had and how they've got their friends for life. There's no way they're going to do stuff. And then when they get a gig, right? Well, they bring one of their friends along.
Honest. Well, that's how the industry kind of survives. Is someone knows someone else.
It's true. Well, what's the next thing for you, man?
Realism. Yeah.
Realism.
Yeah, like animated realism.
Nice. Documentary style. We're talking about really specific, like going for realistic imagery.
I think it's realistic tone,
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to talk about before we let everybody go?
Oh, well, the one thing I would like to say to anybody who is everybody's, make sure the actor or actress is in focus, I tried to put some stylistic soft focus shots and it just didn't work. I'll remember that for the next one.
There you go. Nice. Mine is always do a tech rehearsal.
Oh yeah.
Because there's always something going on. I'm looking forward to seeing what broke on this one. Well, John, it's been great as always. I know we've been going for about 90 minutes and you've got a life and stuff to do and stuff to animate. So I'll let you get back to it, man. Always a pleasure to have you. you're welcome anytime. You want to do another one of these, you get some more ideas, just hit me up, same as you did yesterday, and we'll knock out another one.
Oh, cool.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. Thanks, everybody. We'll call it a night.
All right. Good night.
You don't have to hang up, by the way. Don't hang up. I'm just going to go scene. All right. Now we can talk about how we. Oh, now I'm sitting here by myself and talking to myself. That's chaos.